And they were looking at me with such concern, like, what's going to happen now? What now? It's all over.
What is up, you guys? Welcome back to the #1 mental health and addiction podcast, the Hopeaholics. I am your girl, Natalie Eva Marie, and these are my boys.
I'm Chad.
I'm at Shane Earn, baby.
Hell
Bash
yeah.
Brothers.
Make sure you guys like, subscribe, and follow us on our socials and wherever you get your podcasts.
And remember, new episodes dropping every Tuesday and Friday. Check them out.
This episode is brought to you by the Infinity Group. You guys, if you or a loved one is suffering, please call us today. The number is right here on the screen. We are here for you 24/7. Now, let's get into the episode.
Andrea, thank you for coming
Yeah.
on the Hopeaholics podcast.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it
I'm
means a
excited to be here.
For
Excited
sure.
to meet you guys. I've met you once before
Yep.
at another event, but this is the first time I get to meet Natalie
Yes.
in person. So that's exciting too.
The best.
It's always special to meet Natalie Eva Marie.
Yeah, it was very exciting for both of us.
Yeah.
I remember Shane. I remember Shane was pacing out in the hallway right here as they were giving us their ETA
Yeah.
because he was going to go
Which
meet.
is so funny to me because I'm stuck with these guys. So one, I'm the youngest of all boys, so being with them is like a walk in the park, right? Because they think that they have lots of digs,
Joke.
but I've heard it
She's
all.
got a big shovel herself.
Yeah.
I do.
You do?
I'm always like,
You do?
try me.
Yeah, I think she can handle herself
Thank
just
you.
fine.
So it's funny for me because I'm like, they hardly give compliments. So when they say little stories like that, I
And the truth is, yes, we were both nervous to have her on the podcast. It's a fact.
A small fact.
Well, I mean, she's gorgeous too. What are you guys going to do? I mean,
I'm
there's that.
me. Compliments get you.
She's all right.
I'm like, me and you are good friends.
She's all right. So Andrea, facing fentanyl.
Facing fentanyl.
Take us to the beginning.
So, in 2018, I lost my daughter, Ashley, to a half of a counterfeit pill. In 2018, we didn't know what fentanyl was. I didn't know. She didn't know. And families like me that didn't have a clue when they lost someone they loved have become experts. And this is happening all across the country. So I'm 6 years in, right? In June, it'll be 6 years that we lost Ashley. And I started this organization, Voices for Awareness. And, no one was talking about this where I was at. And I just felt this urgency. We had to tell everyone, right? If this little half of a pill could have killed my daughter, what was happening elsewhere? And, it was only weeks into this that I found out about thousands of people dying from fentanyl poisoning. And a couple of years ago, it was apparent to me that we needed to come together in a different way because I started meeting organizations that were on the East Coast and, Midwest America. And each one of us had the same end goal, but a little bit different messaging. And we needed to put an exclamation point on what was happening and we needed to unite. And just, a late night of working and always desperate to find solutions, I was looking to do a day for Colorado, maybe a proclamation for a fentanyl awareness day, and purchased a calendar day, really a marketing tool, and put a national day event on it. I was on the phone talking to my girlfriend and we said, what about a national day? And it's 1 a.m. You're punchy. You've been working all day long. And I put my credit card in and I wake up in the morning and it's all approved. So I am thinking to myself, what am I going to do now? I'm not the only family out there. How is it that I get to choose this day, right? Without talking to anybody. And I called a really good friend of mine, Jim Raw, that he's the one where you see all this data, all these numbers, 18 to 45. He takes the CDC data and he puts it together and he gives us numbers we can understand, information we can understand. And I had used some of his information to purchase this, in this marketing tool and in creating this day. And I called him and I said, hey, I did this thing last night and I'm not even really sure what I've done, but do you want to do it with me? And he said, absolutely. And I said, well, let's talk about it this weekend. And he said, no. You need to get online right now and put it out because somebody's going to die in 5 minutes. We don't have time. And he was right. And so I did. I put it out there, and some people were receptive, some weren't. But we're going to be, having our 3rd National Fentanyl Prevention and Awareness Day this year for Facing Fentanyl. And it's taken off. It's got, it's reaching places. We're not having to work with everyone for these events or for these tools, for this information that's put out. People are doing it on their own. DEA has been a great support for parents, the other federal agencies, and CDC drops us down to the health departments. And, we've got people participating all over the nation now. And it's not a Facing Fentanyl Day, right? Facing Fentanyl was the founder, but it's the People's Day. And families like mine can now memorialize together someone they've lost, their loved one on that day, but also bring awareness as a united group to stop these poisonings and stop these deaths. And that's how it started. And now, we talk about this National Day, and it's one day a year, but we work prevention every day. And now bringing people in recovery into our circles, walking with us, and sharing the message so the Army grows bigger, right? Mm-hmm. Now who else can we bring in?
Well, now you have us for sure.
Most definitely.
One, I'm very sorry for your loss.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I commend you to have the amount of courage to stand in the position that you're standing and taking on the actionable steps to get awareness out there, because it's very hard for individuals that have parents, especially losing children, and then being really consumed by tragedy and loss, and not being able to do the hard part and talk about it and be the soldier in the front leading the pack like you're doing yourself. So I know it takes a lot of courage, and it's where your daughter continues, her legacy continues to live on through you. And that is absolutely beautiful. And I'm really honored to have you on the podcast to spread the awareness, but also to unite and join forces and spread the word, and also for people to know that they're not alone in thinking when you lose someone that others don't know what they're going through. And that's just not the case, especially now more than ever, with fentanyl just consuming a lot of the younger generation like wildfire. And that's what's scary.
Not only that, but it's that unification through tragedy. And you're that special person with that special strength. Because let's face it, a lot of people going through that, they're in bed. They're broken, they're down, they can't. You're giving them the strength to get out of bed, to fight, to make something change, to make something happen.
Well, that's a lovely way to look at it, but I feel like they give me the strength. So this work is a life raft for me. And I remember the day after Ashley's service, not wanting to get out of bed. You just don't every day. It's like Groundhog Day. In the beginning, you go to sleep crying, you wake up crying, and it's horrific. And other families, that have suffered loss like this understand what that's like, right? And all of my best friends were in town. They came immediately during that time. And I remember having to get out of bed, knowing that they were all going to leave that day. And I had to get up and I had to tell them goodbye. And when I came out of my room, all 5 of them were standing there with a cup of coffee, right? And they were looking at me with such concern, like, what's going to happen now? What now? It's all over. And I think I was just as concerned for them as they were for me in that moment, looking at them. And I said, we've got to make some phone calls. We've got to tell people. And I said, get a pad and a pen, and we'll start making phone calls. And we went out on my porch, drank coffee, and started making phone calls. And in about 20 minutes, we had press set up for the next 2 days to get this message out. And it just took a life of its own at that point. And, I used to wake up every morning and ask God, do I still do this today? because it's heavy and I didn't want to?
Mm-hmm.
And the answer was yes. And now I don't ask anymore. I just keep going.
Yeah.
And it's just worked, but it's what kept me out of bed. When I was about 18, I lost one of my best friends in a plane crash. And his mother was the most lively person, and she was wonderful, and she was always with us, and just such a happy person. And after she lost, his name was Michael. After Michael died, she was a shell of herself. And I have a family. I have grandchildren. I have other children. And I knew that I couldn't just be a shell, even though you feel like you just want to be a shell, right? So it's been a life raft for me. So I think we all do this differently, and that's my way of surviving, I think, and helping to keep my daughter's memory alive.
For sure. And that's why I think it's so special for us to have you, is because, as you know, the Hopeaholics podcast was birthed off of a tragedy, and that's why Chad had on his heart to start this podcast to spread awareness about fentanyl and how the poisoning and how it's more than what people think, because it wasn't getting talked about enough. So Justin's legacy lives on through this podcast, through Chad, honoring him. And because, I mean, he can speak for it better than I can, in the sense of having to not losing per se blood child, but his child that he sees having to walk through the loss of losing the love of her life is painful as well. Being able to carry that is a heavy weight, and then his parents too. So it's a heavy topic, and it's something that is so important to spread awareness about because of the severity of the matter. Like, fentanyl is something that is seeping in here, and it is in everything. And I feel that alone is something that the younger generation especially think like, oh, it's not going to happen to me, or I don't do illicit drugs, or whatever their narrative is. And so it's, to me, beautiful that both Justin and Ashley, even though they're not with us today, they have boots on the ground doing their God's work and saving somebody else's life. And that's really what it's about.
Somebody said to me not long ago, and she was talking about Ashley, but I think of all of our angels like this, that sometimes they can do more from up there than they can do down here, right? And even though that might not make sense to a lot of people, it seems to be the case.
I think so.
And I remember driving home from Denver one day, and we'd had a really great opportunity to get the message out. And my husband was driving, and I was just in a moment, right? And you're elated because of the opportunity to get the awareness out. But it's bittersweet always, right? When we do these great things, because we would rather have never had to,
of course,
and have our sons or daughters with us. But my husband said to me, isn't it strange how out of tragedy you can still find some joy in these moments? And I think about that, and I think about the work that we all do, right? And we get so excited when we've made that stride, and really don't even think about it 10 minutes later, right? Because we're on to the next thing. We're always urgent for solutions. But it is very interesting how all of this has played out, and the lessons that I think, for myself, that my daughter has taught me through her passing. It's so strange how I've learned so much from losing her.
Yeah.
I can't even explain it.
Yeah, I agree. Like, just, it's been, I always say it over here that I know Justin's hand is in everything that we do, because we shouldn't even be here. We shouldn't be where we're at in such a short amount of time, and we just keep getting these blessings after blessings. And I I also always say they really, when I say they, I'm talking about whoever puts fentanyl out on the streets and makes it and all of that. They really didn't know the beast that they were waking up when they came to my home, you know. Because I got nothing but time. Like, I got nothing but time and whatever else drive needed to continue, fighting this fight. And sometimes I like, as we were all talking, I'm like, how did we let it get this bad? How did we let it get this far? Because the difference between when your daughter died and when Justin died is 4 years.
Yeah.
And here we are almost 2 years later from Justin's death, and it is worse. It is worse than it was when he died 2 years ago.
There was a point, and that's exactly what I think all of the time too, because in the beginning, it was just like, we've got to tell people. If people knew this,
Right.
something's going to happen, right? We're going to address this right away, because this many people cannot die and it be okay.
Yeah.
And then there was a day that I woke up and I thought, we surpassed it. Now it's flooding in. And now we have all of these people that are addicted too, and not that there hasn't always been, addiction hasn't been an issue, but the magnitude
And the
from
drug of
this drug.
choice.
Yes. And I thought, now what? Because there was a time I was worried that this was going to get swept under the rug and it was just going to be another drug, right? And we were going to address it like that. And I still worry about that. And that was, part of the National Day effort, right? I was starting to feel that back then. And now I'm like, we have got a whole new set of problems, where before, if we could have just stopped it and got a handle on it. But now we have babies being born that are addicted. We don't even know what that's going to look like. And when I think about all the grief and all the loss from hundreds of thousands of families, what is that even? Like, the energy that we're putting out there has to be.
And the aftermath.
Oh my
of
God.
just
Yeah,
like
the aftermath.
The destruction of families,
Yeah, the one thing I see with that, though, is that's the one thing that ends up uniting us, because we all, even, and at this point in time, and I think I said it on our Zoom call, like, everybody is one person away from having a loved one that has been lost, like,
Yeah.
this is how it is. Like, me and you and them, that's it. That's kind of, and we can all come together through pain. And I'm really like proud of you and your organization and everything that you do, and that you're up there in the places that I'm still getting ready to go to. And I think you guys are doing a fabulous job up there. I'm just always so disappointed with our political government, like both sides, to be honest with you, because I had to stop watching the news, because, like, my people, they're the only ones I really talk crap about. All I see them doing is blaming the current administration for the problem and talking about it and using it as a political tool to get elected. So, and you might see things different because you're like up there, but it's so discouraging to me. And where I'm going with this is when you start messing with people like addicts, in recovery, we have a group where we have all been able to come together regardless of age, race, sexual identity, creed, religion, or lack of religion. And we've all been able to pull together and help each other through a common cause, which is pain, and getting to the other side of that pain. Now you're fucking with 40 million people who, if we start uniting, you're going to have a real problem up there.
And, that's exactly what I saw in Michael Fiore when I met him. We were having that first National Day and Mike came in. It was the first time I met him. And we'd been talking a little bit, and he was pretty rough at that point, right? He was just on his journey
Sure.
the start to
Yeah.
recovery. And there's this kid, I call him a kid. Michael's a grown man, but
Yeah, he's not a kid. But yeah.
he's walking, downtown Denver across from the Capitol. And I know I'm going to go meet him in a couple of hours, and I see this kid walking down the road, and the back of his shirt says sober is the new sex, or sexy. Sober is the new sexy. And one of my friends was in the car with me, and she said, that's got to be Michael. And I was like, that's not Mike. We're not going to run into Mike walking in, downtown Denver. Sure enough, it's Michael. And we pick him up, and that evening we'd gone to dinner, and we had this letter out to the president at the time, and we were asking people to sign it. And it was about the national security crisis, the public health crisis, and now it's become a humanitarian crisis, right? And we'd given it to Michael, and he was putting it out there, and he was calling it a petition, right? And we've got this thick New York accent, and he's calling it a petition, and we're trying to, give him information and education so he can be on track with this message. And he says, can I show you something? And he shows me his phone, and there is a video that someone had sent him in response to the social media posts that he was putting out. And it was somebody that was homeless on the streets, had been using, and they said, you've got to sign this letter. Please read it. We're dying out here. And in that moment, I thought, this is the person. And I'd been scared to work recovery at all. People had come to me before. And my dearest friend had said to me, we have to work recovery. And I said, I can't. I couldn't save Ashley. How am I going to save someone else? It was hurtful to even look at working recovery. And Ashley was not addicted to drugs, but she was addicted to alcohol for a very long time. And I didn't know how to help there, except, as a parent, to find the best recovery center, or which we all know now can be the most dangerous of situations sometimes in recovery.
Yeah.
But Michael made me change my mind in that moment. And I will tell you that walking with him and learning from him has opened so many doors, not only for our messaging, but for hope. Yeah. Because when I see the faces, it's when they're gone. It's too late. I can't do anything about it when these parents contact me that they've lost their child. And I almost hate opening my email most mornings because I know there will be contact from someone that's lost their child, or many. And working with Michael, I've been able to see hope with the recovery community and people. We talk about this drug, and the first thing we say is there's little room for recovery, which is true. But when we see people in recovery from this drug or from any other substance, it really shines some light on this. And although that is not how it started for me, it started for me by just wanting to stop this from coming into the country. It's definitely a piece of it now, a very huge piece. So I'm glad that he's my partner, and I am glad to be able to work, with people in recovery now. And they put credibility behind families like mine, behind our message. Because in my state specific, I worked a lot of the legislation, and when we walk in that room, some people look at us like we're over the top. We've made this up. Right. We're over dramatizing it. Yeah. It's not a lethal drug. Mm-hmm. People can use it and live and everything else. And when you have someone in recovery coming in and saying, yeah, this is the real deal. This is what it looks like. Mm-hmm. It really helps us share our message and for people to understand what's going on.
Oh, for sure. And that's why, I look at Chad and I look at yourself, and it's exactly what I felt the day that I walked in here as a guest. You can feel the passion behind how this was even the birth of even this podcast, right? And how it started. And because obviously Chad didn't need to do a podcast. He's already running treatment facilities and running a business and doing that. But it ignited another something else, woke him up to start being a voice And then when I walked in and met the whole team, and my husband and I both felt it as well. And it was something where it sat with me in the sense of I'd always been wanting to keep quiet about just my own recovery process and journey and things of that nature. And it just kind of awakened something that had been just stewing in me for quite some time, and that I've always wanted to potentially do, but didn't know how I would navigate or what that would look like. And then I met these two, and it just is one of those things that sets my soul on fire to be able to have conversations, meet people like yourself, because this is so much bigger than what people think it is. It's not just the homeless person that is under a bridge. This is coming and knocking at your front door.
Yeah.
And being individuals that are in recovery, where now I'm sponsoring other women, and one of my girls, her thing was coming off fentanyl. And that really woke me up too, because fentanyl wasn't when I was using. Like, that wasn't the drug or the go-to, but now it is. Like, every meeting that I sit into back in Texas, that's what the kids are coming in talking about. And so it just, I find my God to be quite humorous sometimes, and having the opportunity that I am gifted to be fortunate enough of the guys to have me come on the podcast and join them is a gift, and I don't take it lightly. And it's really an honor to have you in the studio and you using your voice and your platform and uniting on the same reason how this even started, which is totally a God thing, where he put this, even us all together and talking about it. Just, to me, is like having a weird moment, in the sense of, you mentioned how sometimes when people are gone, they end up doing more work. Well, I kind of see it even in yourself, and then even in Chad, because it's like, there's sometimes in life certain events have to happen, and however, although it was a tragedy, beautiful things are coming to light. And even in the sense of igniting another fuel and passion into an industry and business that he had been already doing for 22 years. You know, there's like so much more reason, more than ever now, to be the forefront and to be uniting people together over this one particular thing that is taking people out. And so I think that is extremely powerful.
I totally agree. I think that I know for me, faith is the base to everything.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't have been able to even stand or breathe, in those moments.
Sure.
If I didn't believe that, God walked with us on this journey. So that's, of course, my foundation and reason to continue going. And you said something, Chad, about the blessings that we see every day, right? It's strange that we can look at this as blessings, right, when we've lost so much. But I truly believe the same thing. And my grandson is with me on this trip today, and he said something in the car when we were between Nevada and California. He said, "It's the in-between place, Grandma." And when he said that, I was like, oh my gosh, that's where we're at. We're in the in-between place, right? There's a film that we use. It's one of our greatest tools that we've had for prevention, and it's called Dead on Arrival. And one of the dads in the podcast, or in the documentary, says it's strange to wake up and wonder when you're going to die, right? To go on and see his daughter is what he's talking about. And not that I'm waiting to die, because I'm not. I have a lot of things to do, so I'm very busy. I need to stay here. But it is an in-between place, I think, because this is something we've never seen before, ever. How the loss of life it's like people are vanishing before our eyes.
Literally.
and we're not acting as fast as we should be when you talk about, congressional relief from this.
Mm-hmm.
There are so many people out there that are doing good work, and I can tell you that because I see that. We go to Washington a lot. We see the hands in the pot and people that are genuinely interested in solutions and getting help. But government works slow, very, very slow. And
It did. I'm sorry to cut you off, but it didn't when the COVID-19 pandemic.
exactly.
So this is killing more Americans. And I don't give a shit what the CDC numbers say for COVID. They're bullshit. We all know that. The CDC numbers for fentanyl is way lower than what it truly is, and it's still a ridiculous amount. I mean, for it to be the number one cause of death for people 18 to 45, that in and of itself is unacceptable. It's unacceptable. It should be a heart attack, car accident, not a fucking drug. And that's where I get pissed off.
That's coming into
and that's my voice.
And that's what I was just getting ready to say is that at an executive branch, you had mentioned the current administration, right? Well, this has gone through 3 administrations.
Yeah.
All very aware of what was going on. And none of them acted swift. None of them acted strong enough. And we're sitting in a time where these drugs that are emerging are thousands of times more potent than fentanyl.
Oh, yeah.
Does that mean that the magnitude of that the loss of life is going to be magnified by the strength of those drugs if they're 100 times more potent than fentanyl?
They got this brand new drug in New York. It's a new party drug. I forgot the name of it, but it's like Lethy or Leshy or I had a call the other day, bro. And I can't remember the name of the drug. This guy was addicted. I never heard of it before. He said it's brand new, just started in New York.
It's probably fentanyl and something else is what it is.
I don't know.
I think the topic too is like people need to really wake up to the fact that it's not just like the addict or the alcoholic that is a drug user. We know of a case of a girl taking an Adderall and she was prescribed Adderall, but then she ran out, and so her roommate, which was her best friend, ended up during finals weekend was like, you know what, no biggie, I just got some. You can pick up your prescription tomorrow. So she took one, and then now she's not here anymore. And that's a child that I believe was not a drug addict and had a whole life ahead of her. And she was studying at, I think it was at Stanford. It was one of the big schools.
No, it was either Harvard or Yale.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's not this drug that's coming for drug addicts. It's like it's in everything. And we had the sheriff on, and he mentioned how it's coming in too is they are pressing it even better than what
a real
prescription Adderall pill
they
looks
look
like.
better.
So they look better. So it's not like you'll know that it's fentanyl or not, because they're strategically pressed perfectly to think that you're taking something that is different. So whether it's an Adderall, whether it's a Vicodin, whether it's a Xanax or something that you think you're taking, you're not. It's actually has fentanyl or is actually a fentanyl. You said 7 out of 10?
7 out of 10, yeah.
Yeah,
That's
and
what
these stats, these 7 out of 10. When we do presentations, we tell young people, we're saying 7 out of 10, and a year ago it was 6 out of 10 and 4 out of 10 and all of that.
Yeah.
But they're all dangerous. Every single
Totally.
one of them are deadly because you're either going to die from the first use, or you're going to be addicted from first use,
Or
and
become
neither
paralyzed.
one of those.
There's
Exactly.
we had a mom send us in, and it is so horrific and heartbreaking because best case scenario, the individual would pass because now they're not even the same person, because now they can't feed themselves because of taking something that they thought was.
She has a true stuck in between child now from a fentanyl overdose. And it's horrific to see the devastation that it's causing, not just the pain, but like all of this stuff. And it's like, get it together, guys. Like, 'cause we're coming.
Yes.
You know that like
Exactly.
so one of our very first posts when we started the Hopeaholics podcast, there was this guy. His name's we had him on the podcast. He's a motivational speaker. Mendoza.
Oh, Miguel.
Miguel Mendoza. And I saw one of his posts one day, and it said, everybody in front of us better be working really hard because we're coming. And like, that has been our motto since day one. Like, we're coming.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we are building an army
Yeah.
of misfits
Mm-hmm.
and parents
Yeah.
and sisters and brothers and cousins of loved ones. And we're coming.
So when you talk about, the 40 million people in recovery,
Yeah,
right?
that's just the recovery
Exactly.
community.
Mhm.
That's right.
There's another quadruple that,
Oh yeah.
100 million.
And this shouldn't be our job, but it has become, right? Because no one is acting. And so by locking arms and walking together, we've got to demand these changes because our executive branch of government is who's failing us every day.
Yes, they are.
And so we know, our group Facing Fentanyl just took a group of parents or organized a group of parents to go into the China Select hearing that we had last month or the month before and talk about China and these dangerous precursors that they're sending our way. Well, this is not new information.
No.
When I started doing research after Ashley died, these were facts.
Totally.
They're not conspiracy theories. They're out there. Google it. And it has taken us 6 years from the time I read it to put this out to Americans. And you brought up the best point ever with COVID because we all knew in 3 days. And I'm sure Mike said the same thing when he was here. In 3 days, wash your hands, stay 6 feet apart, wear a mask. You can't even go on TV and put this out there.
Right.
And we throw millions of dollars into recovery. Well, we need to have money in recovery, but how about we put money into prevention and stop it before it starts? Because everything that we do is a Band-Aid and never a solution. And so we're with you. I think that, us uniting and putting the call out right now to everyone else before they're affected. Come with us, walk with us, because it's just a matter of time.
You don't want to be here. You don't want to be here after it's too late. You really don't.
On both sides, whether it's actually someone losing their life, but also getting addicted. Seeing people addicted to this drug too is no joke.
Well, it's horrific, and that's another part about it when we're talking about even like looking to put your child into one of the best rehab centers in the world, or any rehab center for that matter. When people are addicted to fentanyl, and this is just in general to any drug or alcohol, the relapse rate is very high.
Yeah.
And the scary part is we get somebody clean for 30, 60, 90 days and their tolerance is gone. It's gone. And they go back out and they take one pill and they're gone. Gone. Like, I even said this to the Orange County Sheriff, Don Barnes. I said, hey, can we just please put heroin back on the streets? Because I've been doing this for 22 years. And in the past 4 years of owning treatment centers, the death toll has been quadruple what I saw in the first 18 years. It is insane. It's scary. And we cannot become desensitized to this.
And that's the fear, is that we're going to get desensitized to this.
It is a fear.
We were trying to get the message out that fentanyl was deadly, that it could kill, and we started making progress there. And now people are telling us that they're getting desensitized to it because that's all they hear. Now, how can that be? Because we have such a huge population of people that still don't even understand what's going on, right?
Totally.
They look at it as a drug addict problem and not as an everyone problem, right? Which it would be bad enough if it was a drug addict problem, right? But it's happening to the unsuspecting, those experimenting, and those already using. And so that's everyone. There's no one that's not covered there.
Fentanyl does not discriminate.
Exactly. And every age. You know, we've got
Every
these
age.
banners. All of our groups have all these banners. And we could fill city blocks with all of them. And that's just what we have, right? And you look at them and there's babies, there's young people, there's seniors. Everyone is encompassed in these faces. So we've got to light a fire under everybody's asses, besides ours, the people that have been affected in some way, to do something about this, because our government is not coming along. And there's got to be a point where we demand, you know, Mike and I just came back from a reservation and they showed us a film from another tribe that wasn't going to take it anymore. And I don't want to put this out there in a negative way because I don't want people to take this literally and go burn houses down.
right.
But this tribe went to, and I think this was in the, you know, methamphetamine related several years back. And they went to these homes, to these trap houses, and they said, we're boarding them up. You can come out or you can stay in, but the house is going down. And they literally burnt some of these houses down. But this community said, and please no one do this, but this community said no more.
Enough is
We're
enough.
not having this in our home and we're not losing any more of our people. And when do we do that as a whole? When do we really say we're not taking this anymore? And there are people that are responsible. Accountability is a part of this. It has to stop. And we've got to lock this down so that we can begin to save lives. And, it's going to take time. Yeah. We've got so much fentanyl in the United States now. Take time. It's Jim Raw would tell you it's indicative of stockpiling.
Wow.
So even if we shut everything down right now,
even if we got it shut down,
land, sea, and air, right?
Another year, 2 years to go.
Because here's the thing, and the reason I want to jump back to the heroin thing, because like fentanyl didn't exist when I was a kid, and the scary drug was black tar heroin here in California. So I could smoke weed. I could do a line of coke. I could do a line of meth. I mean, yes, those are bad drugs too, but they weren't as deadly as heroin. And heroin was scary because it was in California. It's a lot more scarier than New York, but it's like black tar. Mm-hmm. You got to put it in a spoon. You got to cook it up, or you got to smoke it.
More work.
It's like
it looks scary.
It looks scary, and it just sounds scary.
All of it.
You're not doing it.
Right.
Fentanyl.
Pop a pill.
Is just like an aspirin. Mm-hmm. An aspirin. Do people say? Shane says aspirin.
Yeah, I say aspirin.
It's like Tylenol or Advil, or it's not. It's
like
really
candy.
not scary. It's packaged, and I've seen fentanyl in so many forms, but just popping a pill is not scary.
No.
A few years ago, I went to my county and I said, we need a fentanyl task force, right? And instead of start one, they said, let's do some, we need data. Well, we have the data, we have the facts, it's happening. It's the same everywhere, right?
Yeah.
But that was the direction that they sent me. So I do these focus groups and I go into some of the methadone clinics, local ones, and I have people telling me exactly what you just said. My dealer, we're losing everyone. So we're looking for old drugs. If old drugs could just come back, everyone wouldn't be dead. So when we're wishing for old drugs to come back,
what
the hell?
That's a real. We're in a
true.
bad state when that, and I said that to the Orange County Sheriff because he was telling us about all the fentanyl that they've seized, and I said, well, how much heroin have you seized this year? And he was like, none. I was like, wow. A lot of tons and tons and tons and tons of meth and fentanyl.
Someone told me the other day from one of the law enforcement groups that they were going to, a convoy of drugs was going to be moving to be confiscated or to be destroyed. And they were moving in semi-loads from one area. Semi-loads of pills and fentanyl.
I feel like they should bring the incinerator to the spot because, people could hijack that stuff.
Yeah,
I see that in movies at least.
Well, and that's what it's a He's probably not going to be happy if he hears that, but I'm not going to identify where they were. But it's true. That's how it's moving, where we know they used to send packages, right, to be incinerated.
Yeah.
And now you're moving semi-loads, and it's nothing
Which is
in
wild.
comparison.
It's amazing.
What it's wild because a semi truck full of fentanyl
Yeah.
probably could take out the whole entire country.
The world,
Yeah.
probably, because, we get these seizures that can take out the country.
Mm-hmm.
And they're just a cost of doing business to these cartels. We've seen the price of these pills change dramatically.
Yeah.
When Ashley died, they were $35-$50 in my area with one dealer. And, Ashley was number 14. When Ashley died, DEA came in and investigated her case, thankfully, because she would have been another overdose case closed.
Sure.
Nobody even would have looked at it locally. They weren't investigated. They didn't even know about
Yeah.
fentanyl then either.
Right.
So DEA came in and they investigated several deaths, and I investigated too. And they investigated 8, knew there were probably 10, and we found 14 related to one dealer at the time, one dealer in Grand Junction, Colorado. And my county said to me, we don't have a fentanyl problem. Fentanyl's not here. Well, we lost 14 people, and nobody's talked about this. Maybe if somebody would have said something, my daughter wouldn't be dead. So, and that was so long ago. And now I'm sure in my town we have hundreds of fentanyl dealers, right? Just like everywhere else. But time's up, guys. Like, what's the magic number of these
Right.
deaths? What do we do now? Where are we now? Besides,
Get
like I
louder.
said, uniting and locking arms, and
Yeah.
how do we make a difference? Who are we going to? We've got to do this in our own communities. We have to do it all over the country, and we have to have everyone's buy-in at this point. Everyone's got to
I
come to
want
the
to
table.
ask you something. I want to change speeds a little bit because you got me thinking. There's a lot of survivors, mothers, sisters, brothers, family members. How do we make them stronger? How do we give them 30 days at a mental health facility, bring them in, make them stronger, have them buy in to getting out of bed, joining this, becoming part of a movement? Is that needed? Is that
It's so needed, but that's a great question. I wish I knew the answer
there's got to
to
be
that.
a place for these because you have a lot of parents. They need 30, 40 days to go somewhere to deal with this, to get stronger, to understand what to do. They need direction because when you're really lost, you need to put your life or in the hands of someone else that says, hey, just do this, shower, eat, and come over.
But that's the problem in the sense of like, there is so much fentanyl. Like, that's the aftermath of.
I
what
agree,
we're
but
ta-
we
you
could
know what
still
I'm
make
saying?
them stronger instead of they need help.
So we work with we put together a lot of family projects, and a few months ago a group came to us that was going to they wanted to get into schools. They were affected families that wanted to get into schools, and we do this all of the time and have a lot of advocates that have education programs they work. So we said, look, we've got fact-based materials. We'll give them to you, and we'll wrap it up in a pretty package so that they can get it. And I know when I go in to give a presentation somewhere, I can talk fentanyl all day long, but as soon as I talk about my daughter, the lump is in my throat and the tears are in the eyes, and then you kind of go squirrel and forget what you're talking about. So we said, let's make this where it will work for them. So we put all of this together and trained like 25 people, and there was a waiting list for 150 people the next day. So, we started getting this out to them. Grief is a monster of its own.
Yeah.
There are people that there's a lot of anger out there, a lot of sadness, and you just can't. I had rose-colored glasses on, I think, when I thought about this National Day and uniting, because so many people we all want the same thing, and that's not for people to continue to die from this. Yet, in many circles, we're working against each other. So it's got to be, there's no other way that I can say this other than to put all the shit aside, lock arms, and we've got to walk together. And this is a great start. People in recovery walking with our families, but I don't know the answer to that because I don't know how you get so many people that are hurt and so very sad to come together. It's their child. It's the most personal thing to them, or their loved one, their husband, their wife, whatever it is.
Well, the common goal, regardless of what people, how you get there, the common goal should be fentanyl is eradicated. That is the only solution to the fentanyl crisis. So, like, I know there's lots of different things that people say. Some people are, like, drugs, get sober and stay sober kind of thing. And then there's the people that,
don't do drugs.
Well, no, the other side where people want to, I'm drawing a blank on the word, where they want to put Band-Aids on the crisis and give drugs and other stuff.
Oh, right. Like passing out the.
What is it called? If Mike was here, he would spit it out right now.
Like the legalization of drugs?
No, not the legalization. It's
assisted?
Huh? It has to do with like Matt and stuff like that, but it's called something. Harm reduction is what it's called.
Oh.
Harm reduction is the word I'm looking for. Thank you.
Is that the one where they're like giving them needles and
that kind of, yes, needle exchange, all of that stuff.
Yeah, that worked out real well. They tried to do that in San Francisco and it was a disaster.
These states are backtracking on that.
Yeah.
But
exactly.
my point being is that the real solution to the fentanyl crisis is full eradication of the drug. And that's what our goal is. Our goal is eradication of fentanyl, mental health and addiction stigma broken, gone. It's no longer a thing. Like, everybody has mental health issues. I'm sorry, but like, everybody suffers. And people that say they don't, or they're like, and they're like the ones talking about stigma. That's a mental health issue.
Well, we're some of the kookiest because we've all been hurt. We are sitting here doing this very hard work and carrying a heavy load every day in our hearts, right? So we know, but still move forward. And when you talk about this, it's got to be the head of the snake. You cannot eradicate fentanyl without hitting China first.
Yep.
And then after that, Mexico.
Yep.
And these transnational criminals are coming in. We're under attack.
And we're allowing them in.
Yes.
And that's like the big thing. And so
we're under attack.
For sure.
110%.
Hence why I feel it is really important to link up, lock arms. The more you have, the louder you are. And it's almost where my head goes to a crew going into Washington and basically causing a lot of noise.
So then let's put the ask out. We go together.
Yeah.
People in recovery and our families all go together. And not to sit in front of a empty White House.
Right.
We need to go to we need a better plan.
A large wherever their next meeting of some sort that brings in a lot of people from government. You know how they get together I actually don't know how often they get together, but
neither do I.
Finding out basically where a majority of them are going to have whatever meeting that they have and probably talk about nonsense. I saw something, I was listening to Joe Rogan, and the fact that
Are you talking about other countries or just our country?
Just ours, because we're the
just
ones.
Go up to the Capitol building until they hear you.
Well, I'm thinking bigger than that in the sense of finding out what meeting I'm talking about, because I don't know.
But there is a meeting.
There has to be. They get together quite often.
She's talking about Congress. When Congress gets together in Washington, we should go down there, do a march, a hope march.
Well, yeah, or where we're inside, where we're able to actually do something where we're not just standing out in front of the White House gates chanting, because that's not going to get us far at all. We actually need to see face to face these people and ask them dead on this question with a camera in their face too, so that it gets blasted, meaning having our phone, because that's how things get changed.
Can't take your phone into that room. I've been in that room before. The only cameras that are allowed in there are the ones that are up on the wall, and it's C-SPAN.
Well, all of the media is able to film some of these guys, so it's getting into that avenue is what I'm talking about, where you can have your cameras, and those hard questions get asked and putting on the spot, because that's what needs to happen, because all it is just round in circles.
I mean, yeah, honestly, you have to stay until you can't just. You have to stay until solution has happened, because you go in there and you ask them questions. These guys are fucking experts at giving you an answer
Dodging.
that never ever
Is
happens.
the answer.
Never happens.
That's called politics.
Yeah.
Well, again, we need an executive branch. You know, that so much of this can be solved like immediately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it is just deciding to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have become, I feel like it's criminal now. Our country's participating,
For sure.
and it's criminal. And somebody has to be responsible for that. And so we have these hearings like the China Select hearing. And where's the fentanyl hearing? I call on Washington to have the fentanyl hearing. I want to know, who got this information first? What administration got it? And I'm not looking for blame, but solutions.
Mm-hmm.
And so why are we letting this continue to happen? And I don't like going political on all of this, because we really say this is a red, white, and blue issue.
Right.
Yeah.
But I can't help but look at this administration right now, because we're in the depth of this, right?
Yeah.
We're in the deepest part of this right now. Looking at this administration and thinking about the addiction that's centered around that White House. And this could have been the best campaign, anti-drug campaign ever.
Totally.
To come from that White House with the situation that they sit in right now.
Sure.
Yeah.
And instead, we're just getting deeper and deeper and deeper and acting like none of this is happening. So I would love to see our armies hit the streets, and not in any type of a violent way like some of these things that we've seen in the last years, but like you said, a hope march.
Yeah.
And but we've still, hope is a very polite way of looking at this.
Yeah.
And we need to demand action. And how do we do that? And right now we're in a time where we're getting ready to place votes, not only for the new administration, but, other positions. And we've got to ask the hard questions. And so I would invite both parties to, have them here, have them on the Hopeaholics. Let's go to them and let's ask the hard questions, because they've got to address this. And then we need to see action from them, because there's always a lot of talk at this time when there's going to be an election.
All the good things get spoken right now. All the things that we want to hear that make you feel a little bit better, and then you cast your vote and then nothing gets changed.
Exactly. So we can make those decisions and we can put those people out of office, but there's a lot of crookedness going on right now too. So
Which
Sure is,
to
isn't
me
there?
is why nothing has been done, is because the people that are allowing it are making massive amounts of money. Money talks.
off of our dead kids.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And, you talk about harm reduction, and I think there's a place for all of these things. I remember a mom saying to me, I asked a mom early in, how do you feel taking your son to get clean needles? I couldn't even understand that, and replacing one drug for another. And she said to me, it's all that I have to keep him alive right now. Now that I understand, it hit me like a ton of bricks, because if I had my daughter in that moment, I would have probably, if that was the problem, I would have done anything to keep her here. But again, a Band-Aid.
Yeah.
We need prevention, could be the best harm reduction ever if we started there. And the education, the understanding, and again, eradicating the drug would just be
Wouldn't it be amazing?
the magic wand, right?
It would be the magic wand.
I want to say that we are a resource. I didn't say it right. I used a Z. That's fine. We are a resource. We are a resource.
I was literally thinking in my head.
We're a resource. We have 250 beds for mental health, primary, substance abuse. You must get a lot of calls from mothers. My daughter, my kids, my husband's on fentanyl. They're hurting. We would love to be there for you.
We want you to be.
Yeah.
We want to team up, because I get these calls all the time.
Yeah.
And I have no answer, right? And I send everybody to Mike for help or hope.
Yeah.
And we want to do that. And I think building a relationship together to be able to do that and lead our families, not only you would be surprised how many people, well, you probably aren't surprised how many people lose someone and then become addicted their own selves
for sure.
because the hurt, the
Yes.
pain. I remember after losing Ashley, I've never had an issue with alcohol or drugs, but I remember never wanting to drink anything. And I was at an age where all my friends, their kids were gone to college. Our kids were out of the house. Everyone on Friday night, the weekend was going out and having a drink together. 50-somethings, right? And I didn't, aside from being miserable inside because I'd lost my daughter, I didn't want to pick up a drink because I was so scared that it would make me feel better. And then what?
You're smart.
And so I know a lot of families you go through this even after the fact,
Yeah.
where it's the thing you don't even
They need
want.
help.
Yeah.
They need help.
And so knowing that you're a trusted source for recovery and
For those parents too, we want to maybe put together a package, not a package, but like a course or something. You know what I'm saying? Like something specifically designated towards the loss of a family member.
Yeah.
Yeah.
we have a lot of work to do.
We have a lot of
Yeah.
work
Yeah, a
to
lot
do.
of work.
So I think that from everything that we've said here, now we've just invited everybody to gather. We've invited everyone to gather through recovery, our people in recovery and these families that have lost someone and really anyone, right? We want everyone to walk with us. So it looks like we're going to have a march on our hands and that we are potentially heading to Washington to ask some questions and now working together
I mean,
for recovery.
yeah, one of the things is that like we actually want to take the podcast to Washington, put it in a hotel room there, close to the Capitol building, and start getting at these guys. There's no excuse at that point, right? We're across the street. Hey guys, we're across the street over here. So come on over. We can do a podcast a live podcast for days until they're like with a march outside. Oh my God, people would start coming.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
They start hearing about
Yep.
it. The media starts hearing about it. Everybody starts hearing about it.
Streaming live.
So y'all will give a contact information at the end of this podcast, and then hopefully the calls start coming in.
Yeah.
We know that you're going to participate in the National Day
Yep.
with us.
Yeah,
That's
we're
one
excited.
of our first
Yeah.
pieces of work
Yes.
together.
Yep.
And
For people listening, National Day is in what?
August 21st. And we'll be having our press conference in Times Square. Last year, we reached about 40 million people in that hour of time. And so let's reach 80 million or 100 million this time. And we will be there in Times Square again with those big billboards, having our messaging on them, reaching out to everyone at the Crossroads of America, the heart of New York City right there. And then other events that haven't been announced yet for that day, and I'm hoping that you'll be at all of them. And
Awesome.
Yeah, everyone.
Oh,
Yep.
yeah.
Everyone.
August 21st. I'll never forget that day because it happens to be I got married on that day and it's my mom's birthday.
Wow.
Big day.
Nice. Jonathan coming in.
Of course.
Jonathan will be there.
Yeah.
Cool.
I mean, that's how you know. So my husband is a normie. I talk about him all the time on the podcast. Totally opposite of myself. And this is where it gets crazy for me because it's like he knows the severity of the disease of addiction and alcoholism. And then now what's happening with fentanyl, that when I went back home in my car, he has like little kits and stuff, right? Like first aid and making sure like if something happened, then like at least I have all of my things together to stay alive or help somebody else. And in my kit, Narcan. I'm like, whoa.
Nice.
That's crazy. But that's where we're at.
Yeah.
Because that's how much this fentanyl is seeping into the United States and taking out whoever it wants. And that's where we are. Where you're having to have Narcan on you at any moment because you potentially can save someone's life from dying. That's insane to me. That's like really, really crazy. And that's coming from somebody that was out there using and doing whatever drug I wanted to, never thinking about having something like that to bring somebody back, you know? It's just very
Exactly.
weird. It's very odd that we're at this place, I guess you can say.
Yeah.
The in between.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah,
This was
Andrea.
really good.
Amazing.
And we have the
Wow.
mastermind meeting at 2:00, so got to go prepare for that. But we really appreciate you
Thank you
coming
so
on,
much.
and this was really
It was
good.
Really great.
Thank you so much. I
Thank you.
appreciate you.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, we're gonna take a quick picture right here at the table.